Greetings, greetings, family. Sista Shanice in the house. Welcome, welcome. We are live. Thank you so much in advance for joining me for another Sista Shanice show. And as always, we have a great show lined up for you. So, yeah, please let everybody know that I'm in the house and rearing to go. I'm just going to copy the link as I do and circulate it to people who are watching, yeah, or who want to watch. Actually, my thing's just spinning there. Hopefully, it's not affecting you your end. So, family, welcome. Let's get the message out. I've got a great show lined up for you today. And really want you, your family, your friends, your loved ones to all be part of the presentation today. Like to get your interaction, like to get your feedback, find out what you have to say about today's presentation, where we're going to be uncovering more hidden African history. Yes, our history that's been hidden from us in plain sight. It's hidden in plain sight because the mainstream media doesn't actually make the connection, does it, between our history and give us credit for that history. And it's excluded from the mainstream curriculum. You know how they do. And so we have to do the work to bring that knowledge and information to our community. So really excited about the works that we're going to be doing over the next series, where I'm going to be focusing on this theme. So just posting a link, please do assist me to do so, to get the link out to family and friends. When you do come in the house, please let me know that you're in the house. And, as soon as I've got a few of you through the door, I will be ready to start. There's a number of breaking news stories as well that I just want to touch on that before we actually go live as well, or while we wait for the family to come through the door. Some of you may have already heard that the son of Muammar Gaddafi has been murdered. He was assassinated. My. These people don't ramp, is it? Wow, they don't ramp at all. It is a breaking news story, family. So I'll be touching on that one and a few other breaking news stories that we have out there. So as I post the link, let me see if I can also at the same time tell you about the breaking news story about Saddam Hussein's, Gaddafi's son. His name was Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, and he was, being primed and prepared as the next leader of Libya. And some of you may have seen some of the social media posts recently where he was asking about all of that gold, all of his father's gold that had been stolen. He wanted to know, where it was, and he wanted it returned. Well, obviously, there were those who decided that they, I think, would rather take him out than have him, have to face a trial, maybe, or be questioned about the gold that was missing. So anyway, Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was the most prominent son of the former Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. And if you don't know, and if you're just finding out, he was killed in the western city of Zintan yesterday on the 3rd of February. So before I go any further, just want to send out my heartfelt condolences to his family members, his close associates, and of course to the country, who were, probably looking forward to the son of Gaddafi taking the country forward and, getting the gold returned, because this is what he had been boldly questioning quite recently. So who do you think took him out, family? Let me know your comments and thoughts in the chat. A number of headline stories that I can see here in the African news, there's been another incident in Nigeria. At least 160 people have been killed by gunmen in Nigeria. My. You see, Nigeria, they find themselves clear of Burkina Faso, yeah, to try and deal with insurgency there. Yeah, they can't even deal with gunmen in their own backyard, yet they use state-of-the-art, sophisticated surveillance equipment when it comes to spying on Burkina Faso. But gunmen are able to just wage war and attacks innocent civilians in their own country. What do you make of that, family? Let me know what's going on there in Nigeria. Again, our heart goes out to all of our brothers and sisters in Nigeria who have been affected by this senseless attack that has happened in Nigeria. Wow. So atrocities everywhere we look. But if you've got some good news stories that you want to share, please do share those stories in the chat. Just dropping off the link to a few family members and friends. Some people do rely on me to send them the direct link so that they can join us live. So I do try and do so at the beginning of my shows. And so thanks for your patience as I do so. So how are you, family? Certainly hope that you have risen in power, that you have risen in strength, and that you have risen to accomplish much today, and that you are already, you know, working towards accomplishing all the goals that you had set for yourself for 2026, and certainly hope that 2026 is looking good for you. So, you know, we want to be here to just celebrate your success. So if there's anything that you want to share with us, you know, you've written a new book, you're launching a new play, you know, a new theatre production, you've got a community event happening, you're organizing a really important meeting, you can drop the information about that in the chat, okay? And I will you know, do my best to pick up on it and give it a mention as well. We're here to support, you know, our global community. And we want to know what's happening in the world where you are. You know, if you're watching us from on the continent, what's happening where you are? If you're watching us in Europe or from the Caribbean, I'm hearing it's cold in Jamaica right now. I'm also hearing that there's some kind of, you know, unusual flu bug going around in Jamaica right now. Very, very concerning indeed. What is that all about? You know, if you have family and friends in the region and they've been in touch with you and have been sharing with you information about this really strange flu bug, and you would like to, you know, share with us what's going in this, you know, please do let me know. Share with the family. So family, as I was saying a little while ago, in Libya, they have murdered Gaddafi's son, and the Libyan prosecutors have launched a probe into his killing. I've got a BBC News report here that says that Libyan prosecutors say they are investigating the killing of Saif al-Islam Gaddafi, son of the country's longtime leader, Colonel Muammar Gaddafi. So his son was 53 years old, and he was once widely seen as his father's heir apparent. He was killed during a direct confrontation with 4 unknown gunmen who broke into his home in the city of Zintan, his office said in a statement. The victim, his son, died from the wounds by gunfire. Libyan prosecutors said on Wednesday, adding that efforts were underway to identify the gunman. In a different version event, his sister, you know, told Libyan TV that he died near the country's border with Algeria. But Saif al-Islam's lawyer told the AFP news agency that a 4-man commando unit carried out an assassination at his home in the city of Zintan, though it was not clear who may have been behind the attack. Who do you think was behind the attack, family? I would certainly want to hear your views on that. The public prosecutor's office said that forensic experts had been dispatched to Zintan in the northwest of Libya to conduct investigations. So we certainly want to know, don't we, the outcome of these investigations, because this Saif al-Islam was long seen as the most influential and feared figure in the country after his father, who ruled Libya from 1969 until being ousted and killed during an uprising, it says here, in 2011. So this was someone who was feared. It doesn't say who by, but we know who by. During the 2011 revolution, he agreed to be interviewed for the BBC, only to scream insults at me, said, in front of his officials. This is what John Simpson, a World Affairs commentator, editor, had to say when about Saif al-Islam Gaddafi when he met him. So, you know, obviously someone who probably wasn't liked at all by the West. Could this be a contributory factor to his death? Certainly want to know what you have to say about that, family. But what we also do know is that he had been asking questions about the gold reserves that had been stolen, you know, during the uprising that happened after his father's death. And so, yeah, Libya's gold reserves was a major issue and a concern with him. He was appearing in social media posts back in December and in early February this month, highlighting the alleged theft of over 144 tons of Libyan gold by foreign powers. Do you think those foreign powers would want to return the 144 tons of Libyan gold? Do you think they would rather take him out than return that gold? What does our history tell us? What do you think, family? So, you know, as we know, Gaddafi's and the family and Libya's gold reserves as of 2026 was a major issue that Saif al-Islam Gaddafi was talking about. And now he is dead, assassinated by 4 gunmen commando unit in his home. In his home. This is according to his lawyer. Okay. 144 tons of gold. I mean, we know people who have been taken out for a lot less. And his supporters were demanding that NATO and France return Libya's stolen gold, reportedly exceeding 144 tons. Wow, wow, wow. These reports suggested that this gold was intended to back a Pan-African currency designed to rival the US dollar and French franc. So, are the US likely to want to allow that amount of gold to return to a country, knowing that it's going to be used to rival their own currency? We all know that the US dollar is in a lot of trouble at the moment. His son has now been reportedly assassinated. Could there be a link between his demands for the return of the 144 tons of gold and, you know, NATO, France, and the US, on the other hand, probably wanting to prevent the return of that gold? Because if the gold was returned, is it likely that his son would have continued with his father's aim of uniting all Africa and coming up with a gold-backed African currency? That's what his father wanted to do. Do you think he was likely to be continuing in his father's footsteps? Do you think this, you know, conflicting issue, major conflicting issue between himself, as a feared individual Libyan leader, and the US be a contributory factor? Let me know what your thoughts are. Okay. Like I said, there's a number of big headline stories in the newspapers at the moment. We've got the issue regarding Rwanda versus the UK. There's a fallout from the scrapped migrant deal. As you know, Rwanda was being approached and asked to take deportees. And, you know, any country that agrees to take deportees is asking for trouble. We all know that. Imagine, you know, hundreds of men and women unemployed, you know, nowhere to live, having to try and find money for food and what have you, turning up on your doorstep. What do you think is going to happen? Who would want to take that on? Wow, wow, wow. Also, some of you would have probably seen Aisho's speed as he went around Africa, showcasing the wonderful, beautiful culture of Africa. Wow, wow, wow. That was absolutely phenomenal. I hadn't heard of him, to be honest, until, you know, it went viral, those streams and all of those YouTube posts about him. Going to rise him up for the great works. And the other big news headline as well, family, actually, is about the fallout in Minneapolis between the Somali community and the US government. I've seen some video posts now of the Somali community who were previously saying that they're not African, now claiming that they are African and asking for the African Americans to forgive them and to, you know, embrace them and help them fight their fight. What do you think about that, family? Do you think the Black Americans should now turn around and assist the Somalis who were quite offensive, really, towards them? Well, I think they were. What do you think? What are your thoughts about that? I'd welcome to hear what you have to say. Okay, let me go over to YouTube and see where you all are, and see if I've got any messages and any viewers so far. Are you in the house? If so, drop me a message. Let me know that you're in the house. Really want to welcome you. And I am ready to start my presentation. Yes, I've got a few of you in the house. Absolutely awesome. Rise up, rise up. Sister Betty's in the house. Great to have you here. Oh, we've got Miss Karen in the house from the USA. Brilliant. Great to have you here. And thank you so, so much for sharing on Facebook as well. Much appreciated, love. She said, Black first, Black history. D1, yes, it's your Black History Month this month in America as well, isn't it? Yeah, rise up, rise up. What's been going on so far in the in the US regarding Black History Month? She says, glad to be here to learn real Black history. Woo, you're going to be learning some Asian history today, beloved. Yeah. Yeah, she's sending condolences to Gaddafi's family as well. Oh, get some water. Sorry about that. Sprayed earlier to get rid of the mosquitoes and the like, and it's taking me out and all. Yes, it's Black History Month in the USA. Rise up, rise up. We've got Madame Emojo in the house. Rise up, rise up. 144 is a magical number. Okay, where have you seen 144? Tell us a little bit more about that magical number. We've got Amadou Jallo in the house as well. He said, I'm saddened to know about his demise. May his soul rest in peace. Yes, indeed. Rise up, Amadou. Good to have you in the house. Rise up, Sister Betty. So who do you think took him out and why? We've got Chaku in the house as well. Please don't ring me while I'm live. Unable of, come on, call, get rid of this caller. My apologies, can't take calls right now while I am live on air. Can't take calls right now. Please don't ring me while I'm live, family. Everyone should know that I'm doing a live at this time. Okay. Chaku, good to have you in the house as well. Yes, Madame is saying, I am in the USA. They are not going to hell. Ah, Black Future Month, giving it a new name, Black Future Month. So drop your thoughts and opinions in the chat, family. Great that I've got so many of you already in the house and dropping me messages. Absolutely fantastic. Well, I'm ready to kick off today's presentation because, you know, as always, there's a lot to go through. And actually, let me just do another couple of shares. There's always so much to go through. And so what I've decided is rather than try and just cram a load of information in one or two shows, okay, in one or two shows, I will I'll be spreading the information over a number of shows, okay? So have I got some comments that I've missed? Let me also go to, excuse me, family, let me just go on the internet live here. Okay, there it is. Da-da-da. Yeah, let's open up my show so that I can see. I don't tend to see all the comments, so it seems. So let's just do some more. Right. When you go onto my channel, you have to go to the live section to find the live link. I know sometimes some of you don't find the live link, but once you go to the channel, it should be there. So I'm just going to open it up so that I can see comments and see who's viewing on the internet and watch live and direct. Rise up, family. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to be starting the presentation in a very short while. I've given you all quite a few minutes to come through the door. And if you're coming through late, then what you can do, you can just watch the start of the presentation on catch up. Okay, looks like not all of the messages are coming through. So apologies if you sent messages and it's not coming up at the moment, but it will do at some point. And when it does, I will certainly give you a shout out. Okay, remember you have to log in to be able to share your comments and for your comments to come up. Okay, family? Okay, so let's start the presentation for today. I am excited about this new series that I've been working on, family, and I hope you're going to be enjoying it as much as I have enjoyed putting this presentation together for you. So just getting it ready in the background there, and then we're going to be good to go. Going a little slow, but not to worry, we're going to get there very, very shortly. So get ready, hold on to your seats, family. New information, new research becoming available on a daily basis. So, you know, there's researchers out there, archaeologists, anthropologists, geneticists, they're all out there, you know, doing the works to uncover our history. Yes, and so, you know, we have to be reading all of the reports to make sure that we, you know, are in the know and that we get the knowledge from the research that they've been doing. Okay, let me just test this share screen and see if, yes, let me see what portion of the screen I've got here. Just a moment, family. Let me go into a different setting and see what we have here. So I'm not sure if it's captured the right setting at the moment. So I'll just give it a moment to pop up on YouTube, then I'll be able to see exactly what you are looking at. Getting just a moment or two behind. So how are you, family? Wherever you are in the world, I certainly hope that you are doing really well. Remember, share information about what's happening in your neck of the woods, because remember, we are a global family, and this is an opportunity for the global family to be able to share with the rest of the family information about what's going on in your neck of the woods. Okay, certainly want to hear from you all, and also want to be sharing with you what's happening where I am as well, in sunny Gambia. I'm here for a little while, so sometimes it'd be good to talk about what's going on in sunny Gambia. Okay, I'm seeing myself coming back, so that didn't, let me just end there. And this is quite behind, actually. Yeah, give me a moment just to set this up, family. Let's try again and get the setting right, so that it flows properly. Let's get rid of the design format. I don't need that open at the moment. And yeah, so just getting the presentation ready for you. Let's hope it gets right, get itself together this time. Yeah, this looks like it might work. Let's get the right view. Yes, and here we are. Okay, so we've done the breaking news story about Saif al-Islam, Gaddafi's son, who was tragically murdered, assassinated. Woo, there's going to be an investigation, but they've done the dirty now, haven't they? They've taken him out. No investigation is going to be bringing him back. So, and we touched on a number of breaking news stories. So we're going to go forward into the presentation today. We've got Harry Thomas in the house, bigging me up. Thank you so much. Sister Shanice, yeah, bigging me up from Kofi. Good to have you in the house. We're going into our presentation today. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm actually a graduate of Dr. Winters's Afrocentric research program. Wow, wow, wow. And I'm proud to say that every time, because, Dr. Clyde is a historian who's written over 50 books. And, he's been doing a huge amount of research into our history for well over 50 years. And to have someone like that, who has a very Afrocentric perspective on our history, take you under their wing and want to encourage and inspire you to do the best you can. You've got to, haven't you just got to give the big ups? Yeah, well, anyway, I was one of his students on his Afrocentrism Afroecology study programs, and we were studying our history and researching our history and learning history research techniques on that program. And, as a result of that, I developed a love for studying our history, but in particular, our Asian African history, and especially our Asian African history in Britain. And, although I'm not going into the history in Britain in this session, you can certainly get that from my books, which I'll tell you about in a little while. So I'm continuing to do the work, following the structures that I acquired the knowledge of on those programs. And hey, it's certainly a course I can recommend. So if Dr. Winters ever runs it again, his archaeological and historical research program, do go on it. You've got so much that you can learn from this great historian and researcher. There's the man himself. Big up Dr. Clyde Winters, and thank you every time for your support. Yes, Sister Karen, agree with you. Dr. Winters, she said, is an awesome teacher and researcher. He is indeed. And, you know, if you want to catch Dr. Winters, just go to his YouTube channel, Black History Gems. He goes live every Thursday at 9 p.m. GMT time, which is, I think, about 4 p.m. EST time. But Karen, please do post the times of those shows. I know it's 9 p.m. GMT. You can also catch me on the Big G Galaxy Afiri Radio. I do a community talk show on alternate Saturdays. I drop a particular topic or two, and then I invite you, our local community, to call in. So if you want to have a conversation over the radio, the community talk shows are the shows for that conversation to happen. It's a global radio station. It's online. So you can go to www.galaxyafiri.net and log in to the only Debrainwashing station. I'm actually going to be on this Saturday, and then I will be on, you know, on alternate Saturdays from 10 a.m. through to 1 p.m. GMT time. And so, yes, I am also a proud product of the Galaxy Afiri radio ideology and Galaxy Afiri family. It's an online Pan-African centered radio station. So if that aligns with your interests, do join me there. Okay, just going to go into now the series that I've got lined up for you, entitled Hidden in Plain Sight, Africa and the Ancient World. During these series, over the course of these series, I'm going to be tracing Africans' Asian influence across continents. Yes, there are some who think and believe that, you know, as Africans, we only stayed in Africa swinging on trees. This is what they would have you believe if you were to listen to the mainstream and study their curriculum. But anyway, if you join me in the series that I'm running, 6 episodes so far and growing, you are going to uncover and learn about so much Asian African history that they have tried to hide from us. So episode 1 was Last Strong, Asian Africans, indigenous to every continent, including the Americas. And I provided the evidence of that. If you missed that episode, you can go to my channel and watch it there. In that episode, we actually showed that Africans were in the Americas and every continent long before European contact, long before the transatlantic enslavement as well. Today, we are on episode 2, and the title of this episode is Africa and the Ancient World, Masters of the Sea. So in this episode, we're not going to be talking about whether Africans reached the various continents around the world, because we did that in episode 1. What we're going to focus on today is how Africans reached the various continents around the world. And we're going to show the Asian evidence as well that exists to substantiate my claims. Then next strong, episode 3, all being well, we will be looking at Asian Africa's global spiritual legacy. Wow. Another incredibly insightful journey that we are going to be on as part of this series, where we look at how Africa influenced the world. Okay, episode 4, Monuments of Genius. We're going to be talking about what it takes to actually create and carve out some of these monumental structures. And when we start examining it from that perspective, you're going to realize the greatness of our ancestors. If you didn't know before, definitely by episode 4, you are going to be in awe of the greatness of our ancestors. Episode 5, we're going to look at linguistics and human evolution. We're going to be looking at evidence that exists that points to how language, how Africa is the cradle and the origin of all languages. So that's another great one. And one of my favorites, I must say, so far from the research is episode 6. Oh my gosh. Symbolism hidden in plain sight. Family, our ancestors have left us messages all around the world about their greatness, their ideology, their belief systems, etc. And it's all coded in symbols. And a lot of those coded symbols are all around us. Yeah, but do we know the meaning of these symbols? Do we even recognize these symbols if we see them? Wow, so I'm going to be doing an episode to highlight, some of these symbols hidden in plain sight. And I'm going to be decoding them as well. Rise up, Sister Karen. She's making us aware that you can tune in to Dr. Clyde Winters's Thursday Black History Gems at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 9 p.m. Okay, GMT time. Rise up for that, Sister Karen. Thank you so much for that. So as I said, on the last episode on the last strong was the first episode of the new series on ancient African history. And during that series, what we did was we traced the epic migration journey of our indigenous ancestors around the world. And we looked at the timeline as well, and when they started migrating around the world. And, I pointed to the scientific evidence, the archaeological evidence as well, to substantiate that connection to the various continents as well. And I strongly believe that, the role of this generation with the access that we have to information is to ensure that we uncover and restore and reconnect Africa's broken history. Yeah, we need to make sure that during our lifetime, we push the information out there to give the recognition to Africa as the mother of civilization. We must be able to use the access that we have to information today to prove that African people did not begin their stories in chains, but we began our story as navigators, builders, scholars, monument builders, and as the indigenous people across the entire globe. Our history has been buried for centuries, for hundreds of years. But the good thing is that we are unearthing it now. We are digging it up. And, those that buried our history and rewrote our history had no idea that social media, that the internet, and the access, that we would be able to have the access to the information that we are able to have today. And so while we have the opportunity to have this access to the information, family, please make sure that you document, that you download, that you save, that you write, so that future generations can have this information, because they will try and erase it and cover it up again. And so with each show is going to be an episode in the series where I will be restoring the history that they tried to erase, okay? And if you don't have a copy of my book, Hidden in the Shadows of Ancient Britain, an Erased African History Restored, then why not get a copy? It is a fascinating discovery of our history from ancient times. I've actually uncovered and I present scientific evidence to back up my claims. There's an index at the back. There are reference sources at the back. You don't need to do the research because I've already done it for you. So you can use my book as a stepping stone to do more works and more investigative research into our Asian African history. Okay, as Africans, there is evidence, yeah, that we were in the Americas, we were in Asia, we were in Europe, we were all around the globe. Okay, so let's do the work together. Let's be about restoring the lost pages of our African history. My interest is a particular focus on the ancient world, because wow, it's a world that was and has been hidden from us in plain sight. Ooh. I had a friend who went to Angkor and visited these and saw these monuments and was looking at the broad noses of the Africans and their features and their crowns, and the tour guides, she said, who are these people? And they said, oh, we don't know. They've been lost over time. And you could be looking at these African features and not even know that you are looking at your ancestors who, over time, journeyed from Africa to these parts of the world and have left evidence of their greatness. But we'll go into this in more detail in a future episode. So some of the key questions that I'm going to be answering in today's presentation are as follows. How did human beings reach the Americas over 11,000 years ago? And what does modern archaeological science now confirm about early transoceanic movement? If humans reached the Americas far earlier than once believed, who had the maritime knowledge and technology to make those journeys possible? What does African knowledge of the Atlantic Ocean currents reveal about international and intentional travel from West Africa to the Americas and other continents? Rather than it being an accidental drift, was it a deliberate maritime journey? Why do the natural ocean currents off West African coast carry vessels directly to the Americas? And who would have known how to use them in ancient times? What does the discovery of an 8,000-year-old canoe in West Africa tell us about the age and sophistication of African seafaring traditions? Further questions we're going to be answering today, and we're going to be revealing, is addressing how the discovery of an ancient dugout canoe in Ireland that was dated over 4,000 years old supports the idea of early Atlantic navigation. And why is it true that it could even be older than the forensics are currently estimating? Is there evidence that Africans were crossing the Atlantic long before European exploration? And what routes would they have taken? That's going to be revealed in today's presentation as well as you asking the question, what do historical accounts tell us about the Atlantic voyage undertaken by the predecessor of Mansa Musa? And why has this voyage been largely ignored or dismissed? We'll address that. Also, you may be asking, why do symbols of kingship held by Mansa Musa, such as the crown, the golden orb, and the sceptre, closely resemble royal regalia, later found in Scotland? I'll be pointing that out today as well. And, you'll be left with the question that I'm going to ask, are these similarities coincidental, or do they point to shared ancient traditions, cultural transmissions, or long-distance contact across the Atlantic world? I would want to hear your views and your thoughts as well. And I will be posting the link in the chat a bit later, and so you will be able to join me. So today we're going to be homing in on Africa and the ancient world and our ancestors as masters of the seas. You see those films on the television, and hardly do you ever see us as Africans as masters of the seas, sailing the storms, journeying from one part of the world to another in ancient times. Hey, well, in this episode, you're going to have to visualize that happening until those films are made, because I can assure you there was a time when our ancestors were masters of the seas for tens of thousands of years, possibly much, much longer as well. So hold on to your seats as we come with the evidence of what was happening in the ancient world. So, as I said, the series is about our ancient history that's been hidden in plain sight. And as I said, it's going to be, today's presentation is episode 2 of the series of shows that I'm going to be doing. It's going to be providing evidence of Africa's global legacy across the ancient world, and in particular today, how the Africans reached the Americas, Asia, and Europe and beyond in ancient times. So for centuries, wow, we've been taught a version of our history that suggests our history began with the Europeans. And they've rewritten history to give the impression that Africa was nothing but a footnote, that when, they arrived in Africa, it was uncivilized. They're given this Tarzan and Jane image, that we was living only in mud huts, swinging from trees, and this is why our history is so important, because, until the lion tells the tale of the hunt, the rest of the saying, the story will always be told by the hunter. So we are the ones who have got to be telling our story, okay? And so, they've always suggested that Africa, hasn't had much of a history to speak of, but that is just such an insult and an incomplete story and a lie, because when you get to know the history of Africa, you realize that Africa wasn't at all isolated in the ancient world, but Africa, was deeply connected to the ancient world. And that as Africans, we weren't only just present in Africa, but we were all across the globe. We were instrumental in shaping early civilization itself, and so that's why series like this are just so, so important. And remember, what I'm talking about is not dealing with myths, yeah? It's not dealing with wishful thinking. We're dealing with evidence, archaeological evidence, ancient texts, genetics, linguistics, eyewitness accounts, forensic, the monuments that are out there that are still standing today. Even though the builders, we may not know their names, the monuments are still there. And fortunately for us, we can see the evidence, from the artifacts that they left behind as well. So, across Africa, the Americas, Europe, Asia, and the ancient world, there are traces of African presence, family. Not as slaves, not as enslaved, not as outsiders, but as I said, as navigators, as engineers, as spiritual leaders, as scholars, as founders, And these traces of us in our greatness is not lost by accident. It was buried, deliberately buried by conquest and renamed by colonization and rewritten by those who control the narrative. Well, now it's up to us to rewrite our history. We have an opportunity during this age that we're in to take control of our narrative. And I want to rise up all the great scholars out there who are researching and rewriting the narrative, who are at the forefront of rewriting African history. High five, rise you all up, every single one of you, because on a daily basis, we are uncovering more of our history that has been hidden from us in plain sight. And so, you know, it's up to us to restore that history and to put us back in our rightful place in our story of humanity. So what, you know, is going to follow is going to be evidence, family, evidence. And so in episode one, if you remember, we traced the migration story that has been documented archaeologically of our ancestors when they left Africa and went on to populate the rest of the globe. Well, here we have the perspective from the National Geographic magazine. There were other journals and articles that I referred to in episode one. You can go to that episode and you can trace the migration story as evidenced by those other institutions in the earlier part of my presentation. But here today, we're looking at what the National Geographics have to say about human migration. And according to them, you know, some groups of modern humans began their migration out of Africa 60,000 years ago. Yeah, 60,000 years ago. But, you know, also we need to mention as well that according to the National Geographics, as Africans, you can't see there because it's so small, but in this, in the heart of Africa here, on this map, they're saying that the Africans were there for at least 200,000 years before we started our migration. So they're saying that they believe that we were in Africa, in the heart of Africa, for at least 200,000 years before we started our migration out of Africa. Now, we know that we were there much, much longer. You know, remember Lucy? 3.3 or so million years old. Wow, wow, wow. We are an ancient people. Anyway, according to their archaeological discoveries and their forensic analysis that they're doing, they say that we started our migration out of Africa about 60,000 years ago, and that we crossed the Red Sea and reached Asia. They're saying about it's so small, about 70 to 50,000 years ago, that we reached Australia about 50,000 years ago, that we reached Europe, they're saying about 45 to 50,000 years ago. North America, we reached about 20 to 15,000 years ago. South America, 15 to 12,000 years ago. But, you know, since that article was written, there have been some updates on that as well. Sister Betty says they love to hear themselves talk, but they are saying nothing. Brother Errol's in the house. Rise up, rise up. He says, I remember watching an interview on TV years ago, and a Black Australian being interviewed said his ancestors left Africa by sea 60,000 years ago. There you go, and ended up in Australia. Yes, they know their history, indeed. And, you know, we trotted, we sailed, we explored, and we brought our high culture with us wherever we went. Yeah, because by then, you know, we had already established a high level of civilization and a cultured way of life across Africa. These monuments that we see all over Africa are much, much older than they have been, I think, suggested to be. And that the ancient world, I believe the ancient civilized world is much, much older than they are suggesting here. But anyway, for now, we'll go along with their estimate. 60,000 years ago, we migrated out of Africa after having been there for 200,000 years. And while we were there for 200,000 years, of course, you know, we've seen the evidence of what we were doing and what we were accomplishing while we were there. So just when they think they've got the dates all right and all correct, the Independent comes out with an article that says that humans actually reached the Americas 11,000 years earlier than previously thought, according to archaeologists. Wow, wow. So you see, family, the truth is slowly trickling out. They give us these dates and then they'll admit, well, actually, you know, there's another 11,000 years to add onto the age of when the Africans reached America. So according to this article in The Independent, new archaeological radiocarbon dating science is assisting them to understand how ancient we Africans really are. And, you know, this is what's happening now. As the technology develops, you know, they're beginning to realize how ancient we really are as a people. You know, their archaeologists 20, 30, 50 years ago, you know, just couldn't believe it, refused to believe the evidence that they were finding when they were, you know, robbing the graves of our royals and our ancestors. They were refusing to recognize, you know, the quality of the artifacts, the gold, the designs, you know, how sophisticated and a high standard the ancient civilization must have been. They just couldn't believe it. But anyway, according to this article, so that's why they, you know, would hide a lot of the artifacts, bury it, you know, in the museums, basements, and in the cities under the museums, and in the, you know, the tunnels under the universities. This is what they would do, and they would just take out, you know, little splints, little small arrowheads, you know, little small pieces, little fragments of things to suggest this is what the ancient world had to offer. But hey, you know, we instinctively know the truth, and it's only a matter of time before the truth comes out. So anyway, they're now using new archaeological radiocarbon dating, a scientific technology that has enabled them, they say, to realize that Africans reached the Americas 11,000 years earlier than they previously thought. This is, they're saying, a landmark discovery, a landmark archaeological discovery that rewrites world's prehistory as it is currently known. So you can get a hold of that article, just search it online for yourself and it will come up. But what they say is that an extraordinary new archaeological discovery has revealed that humans, when they say humans, they're talking about Africans, yeah? That humans arrived in the Americas at least 11,000 years earlier than previously thought, rewriting the human story of the continent and dramatically changing our understanding of world prehistory, they say. The find in central Mexico indicates the continent was first colonized, they always say colonized, you know, at some stage prior to 30,000 BC. They're now saying that Central America was inhabited at least, they're saying, at some stage prior to 30,000 BC. Wow, wow, wow. See how old we are as Africans? They're saying that until now, the earliest proven, they use the word colonization, but I would say habitation, had been dated to around 19,000 BC, meaning the Americas' human story is at least 50% longer than previously thought. The new research reveals that very early Native Americans were living in Mexico and presumably also in parts of the rest of North America from at least 30,000 BC onwards. Family, they don't really know how old those Olmec heads are. They don't really know how old our ancient Stone Age history really is. But we are the ancients of ancients, family. The article goes on to claim that the discovery in a remote cave in the state of the Zacatecas, central Mexico, is of huge international importance and represents one of the most significant archaeological finds anywhere in the world in recent decades. Very lengthy and thorough excavations within the cave have yielded almost 2,000 stone artifacts. And family, I can tell you, we'll be lucky if we see 2 or 3 pieces of those artifacts. And if we do, like I said, it's probably just going to be a little arrowhead or a little flint head. But the real significant, pieces of artifacts with the faces of our ancestors on it, they're going to try and hide those. They're going to try and hide them. But anyway, they found 2,000 stone artifacts dating from between 30,000 BC and 11,000 BC, of which around a dozen date between 30,000 and 24,000 BC, the very earliest chronological phase of the site. These dozen early artifacts include, here they go, minimizing what they found, a very small number of stone projectile points, probably used as spearheads, and some stone flakes generated during tool-making activities. Family, I can tell you of these 2,000 artifacts, yeah? We need to find out what they found, because I know that there are substantial artifacts there that they have uncovered that they're not going to be sharing, that they will hide, because until they've blown off the noses and whitewashed them, then we might see them. Later artifacts, they say, include stone knives, scrapers, adhesive blades, and burins, dated from 24,000 BC to 11,000 BC. And also of extraordinary importance, they say, it predates the date that they originally thought people had started peopling the Americas. So all of this has been made possible because of a combination of new excavation and cutting-edge archaeological science that is allowing them to uncover a new story of the colonization of the Americas. Is it purely that, family? Or could it also be because, we are uncovering our history for ourselves and they want to be the authority on our history? So always want to try and be one step ahead of us. Yeah, because we already know all of this. We already know, that our ancestors were in the Americas, we're in Asia, we're in Europe, we're in all the continents, we're in Australia. We already know all of this. And, we've seen some of the huge monolithic structures that our ancestors created, as evidence of their existence in ancient times in those places and spaces. But we know, that they also want to try and erase that history. So that's why we've got to grab hold of the information when it's available. So in my book, Hidden in the Shadows of Ancient Britain, an Erased African History Restored, you can read about, our brilliance as Africans. And I'm going to be going into talking today about our ancient maritime traditions. And there's a chapter that's dedicated to that. That's chapter 4. And you can also read a chapter about Queen Scotia, because in that chapter, I also provide evidence of our ancient maritime expertise, and in particular, the expertise of the Phoenicians, who were exceptional on the seas in ancient time. Okay, and so for centuries, our story has been, covered up. But now, with the technology and the advancement that we've got, we can see for ourselves how great our ancient civilization actually was. And, we've seen and we know how they narrowly frame our history. But now, you know, our history is just bursting out at the seams. And so we no longer need to look at our history through their narrow framed lenses. We no longer have to rely on the European lens to tell us about our history. We no longer, you know, have to listen to their derogatory, insulting, negative stories about our history. We can research our history for ourselves, and we can tell the story of how powerful our Asian African civilizations actually were. And today we're going to be homing in on the maritime world, which has often also been overlooked, marginalized, or even erased. Okay, and it's because of that erasure and it's because of that marginalization why I dedicated a chapter in my book to highlight, you know, our great seafaring ancestors, yeah, that forgotten maritime legacy. I've tried to resurrect it in my book. And so, yeah, grab a copy. You can get it on Amazon and read about our maritime mastery for yourself. It's evidenced with archaeological discoveries, yeah, and it's evidenced with historical documentation as well. And you can read about the story of Pharaoh Necho II, who ruled Egypt in 600 BCE. He commissioned Phoenician captains to go and circumnavigate Africa. You know, this is documented by the Greek historian Herodotus. So you can read about his story. You can read about the story of the Carthaginian commander Hanu in 520 BCE. He also led a fleet of ships, 60 ships, and 30,000 people down the West African coast. This is documented evidence, further evidence of our African maritime influence. You can read about that in chapter 4 of my book, all of which is just providing undeniable proof that our ancestors were accomplished deep sea mariners and could cross oceans. Let me just stop for a second and check how you're getting on, because also the next clip that I have involves me actually playing something. I want to check that I have actually, yes, I just want to check that I did the share sounds, and I did. So that's brilliant. Okay, let me get back into the presentation, family. There we go. Right. Where are we? Okay. So the clip should play. And let me know if you can hear it. I'm going to be playing a clip in this next slide. Let's jump forward one. Okay, so in episode 1, I actually touched on the fact that our African ancestors had knowledge of the currents. And for those of you who missed it, you know, here's a reminder of how our ancients reached the lands across the seas. Here's a reminder of how great the great sailing expertise that our ancestors had. And, you know, there's evidence of wooden model boats with African sailors on them. As you can see in the image here, this is dated from the 12th century, the 12th dynasty, which was about 1985 to 1795 BC, 4,000 years ago. And why is it important? Well, these artifacts are crucial because it provides evidence, you know, that we as Asian Africans were building boats. We had sails on our boats. We therefore understood navigation. these boats were big enough to hold, you know, large numbers of people. You know, I told you the story of Hanu, who had that took 30,000 people on his voyage, you know, and there are so many more of these stories in our history. We can see as well from this model boat that our ancestors used oars as well to propel the sea when they were going northwards. You're going to hear about how they would catch the southerly and northerly winds, and you're going to hear from our late great Ivan van Sertima what he has to say.
I knew about currents because most people think the river is just like that. No, the river is alive. In certain parts of the falls in Guyana, the water is running as fast as a motor car. You don't have to have an engine. You have to know how to steer. Or it hits you against the rock and you're blown to pieces. The water moves as fast as a motor car. And in those waters, they do not move as fast as a motor car, the great rivers, but they move with force and take you places. And we have discovered 3 currents of Africa that take you automatically to America. There's one up the Cape Verde, one up the Senegambia coast, one up the southern coast of Africa. Once you are caught in those currents, you have to come to America unless the fish get you first. Whether you have an engine or not, the water is the engine. It's very powerful. And it's exactly where those currents end that we find the African presence. It goes to Mexico. It goes into other parts of America. It goes to Brazil. But what is most extraordinary is the evidence we have of their ships. They had the ships. These guys made it in less time than the European boats because of their knowledge of the currents. And they're not only currents off the Cape Verde, off the Senegambia coast, off the southern coast of Africa that take you to America. They're currents that spin you back towards Africa. We have an evidence of a boat, American boat, Native Americans landing in Africa 62 BC.
Message me in the chat, family. Let me know if you're hearing me. Rise up, Sister Betty said I'm breaking up. I hope I'm not continuing to break up. Let me know if you can hear this clip. Thank you.
7 in the boat because it was an accident. They were taken because the currents that not only take you there and pull you back. We don't have any evidence of Europeans doing that. We have it in Native American 62 BC. That is in my book. They came before Columbus.
Rise up, family. Not got any messages there. Hopefully you heard that clip. If not, I can put it through my speaker. But they had Ivan van Sertima, you know, just telling us how our ancestors rode the winds, that they understood the direction of the winds, they understood the ocean waves, they knew when to jump on and get the northerly sails that would take them to, in fact, let me just jump to the next slide, because this slide actually illustrates what Ivan van Sertima was saying. So this is a map that represents you know, the assertions that he was making. He was saying that there were 3 currents off Africa that automatically take us to the Americas. Rise up, Brother Errol. Thank you for letting me know that I was coming through live, loud and clear. Thank you, Sister Betty. Rise up. Good to know. Thank you. Thank you, Birim. Thank you so much. So he was saying that there are 3 currents off Africa that automatically take you to America. So there's the current that leads from Cape Verde to America. There's the current from off of Senegambia coast that take you to the Americas. And there's also the southern coast of Africa where you can leave from as well. So you've got the northern equatorial current, and you've got the Canary current as well. So here we have Africa. We can see, you know, you can go from Cape Verde. That's going to take you to the Americas. You can see from West Africa, which would be down here somewhere, that will take you to the Americas as well. And we can see also up here, we've got the North Current as well from the southern part of Africa. No, the southern part of Africa must be down here. That's the one that would also take you. So there's these three currents, you know, that would take you to America. And our ancestors knew this. They studied it, you know, and so did Ivan van Sertima know this. And again, if we tap into the expertise of Ivan van Sertima, he will tell you about, he told us about this Norwegian anthropologist who goes by the name of Thor Heyerdahl. And he became famous by having proven that our ancient navigators could have crossed the Atlantic Ocean on sailing boats. So what does that tell you? It tells you that these people just didn't believe that our ancestors could have navigated their way from Africa across the Atlantic Ocean, and that they would have to prove it for themselves and replicate what we did in order for them to believe it. Yeah. And so in 1969, Thor Heyerdahl got the Africans to build a boat, which he can build himself. He got them to build it from papyrus. Yeah. And as in ancient times, this is what they did. They used the papyrus reed to build the boats. However, in their account of history, it is written that he built the boats. But it wasn't him who built the boat. It was the Africans that he got to build the boats, apparently. Anyway, he started a trip from Morocco to Barbados with a crew of 11 sailors. Now, the first expedition that he didn't have the success because the boat basically broke apart and the crew had to abandon the vessel. So it could have been written off there and then, and they could have turned around and said, there's no way, you know, that our ancestors could have sailed across the Atlantic because we tried it and we couldn't do it. But anyway, no, he didn't give up. He tried it again the next year. And Thor Heyerdahl financed the Africans to build another similar boat. This one was Ra 2. The first one he called Ra 1. This one is called Ra the Second. Ra 2. You see how they used the names of our ancestors as well? Make them look like Ra. Anyway, they built Ra the Second from papyrus reed again. And this time, it's reported they had great success. He reached the coast of Barbados, proving to the whole world that ancient people could have crossed the ocean using the Canary Current. You know, why do these people have to replicate what we do in order for them to believe that we were sailing around the world back from ancient times? So here's another clip from Ivan van Sertima telling the story.
And apart from this oceanographic evidence, there's the navigational evidence. That's the boats. The Africans had the boats. The Africans built the boat for Heyerdahl. Heyerdahl became world famous about how he crossed the Atlantic. He didn't build the boat. It was Africans who built the boat for him, a boat they had used before Christ, the Buduma people on Lake Chad. It's in my new book, Early America. You'll see the boat. The Africans built it. They could easily have crossed. And when you cross, the current actually takes you into the Caribbean, to Brazil, or parts of South America, Mexico, etc.
There you have it, family. There you have it. I could watch and listen to him all day long. So again, Ivan van Sertima, and it's in his book as well, proving, that Africans were sailing the seas during times of old. Let's go to a piece of artifacts, another piece of artifacts that has been found, which again is depicting Africans on the seas. They look African to me. Do they look African to you? I'm surprised they haven't, whitewashed this lot here as well. But yeah, in part one, if you remember, in that presentation, you actually saw the image of an 8,000-year-old canoe from West Africa. Yeah, and now here we have, a similar canoe. This one is during Egyptian time, so this would have been more recent compared to the 8,000-year-old canoe that had been dug up in West Africa. Remember, they've got new science and technology now that might even prove that what canoe that they thought was 8,000-year-old could be much, much older. All right, and so this is an image that's been taken from an Egyptian artifact in which we can see Egyptians in a sailing boat. Further evidence that Africans have a history of maritime seafaring tradition from ancient times in North Africa as well. So, evidence of our seafaring abilities in West Africa, evidence here of our seafaring abilities in North Africa. And in the next slide, we're going to slide over to Europe. But, this just proves that our people were navigating the seas from West Africa, North Africa, thousands of years ago, and that we reached, the Americas, that we reached Ireland, that we reached Europe. And all of this is evidence that, thousands of years ago, we were able, to sail the seas and reach various parts of the globe. And, even if we look today, we see Africans getting in small boats and trying to cross the Mediterranean Sea, which a lot of them would do very successfully if you didn't have the coast guards destabilizing the waves to sink those boats. And so, this is something that they've been doing for thousands of years. When they want to move, they just get in a boat and they sail to somewhere else. This is what our ancestors did in time of old, and this is what some of our young people try to do today. But as we know, those islands and countries that they used to be able to sail to back in the day has now been colonized by people who don't look like us, don't like us, and don't want us in large numbers in these countries that they have stolen from us. Their big fear is that we will take back our countries from them. Because, at the end of the day, if we're the original people of those lands, which we are, it means those lands belong to us, belong to our ancestors, and we should have inherited those lands. But as we know, slavery interrupted our progress and, changed the course of history for us as Africans. But, there's a big awakening happening. Here is further evidence of how our ancient people traveled the seas, sailed the seas, and even ended up in Britain. So this here is a large canoe. And as you can see, it could have held, I don't know, a large number of people. It's about 50 or so. Anyway, it's another example of how we as Africans were sailing from Africa to Britain in ancient times. This canoe was dug up in Ireland. It's very similar to the canoe that I presented in my presentation in episode 1 that was found in Nigeria, that was dated 8,000 years old. Well, this one that they dug up in Ireland, they've dated it, carbon dated it to be about 4,000 years old, probably a bit older. There we go, family. Further evidence that our ancestors reached Europe, obviously, therefore, populated Europe as well, because it wasn't just 1 or 2 people on that boat. We know, that our people are very know how to populate and do so. So this also raises questions, does it not, about us as Africans in Britain and in Ireland over 4,000 years ago? Who were these people that traveled to Ireland on this canoe? Wouldn't you like to know where they were from and who they were? You know, I've done some of the research, family, and I do know of some of the groups that reached Ireland, that reached Scotland, and that reached Britain thousands of years ago. And, you know, you can read about them in my book as well. There's so much of our history that has been hidden. So get a copy of the book, Hidden in the Shadows of Ancient Britain, an Erased African History Restored. So this canoe has been measured, and it's 50 foot long in length. It was dug out of a bog in Galway in Ireland back in 1902. And they determined it to be a Bronze Age canoe. It was discovered by workmen who were digging a drain in the bog at the town, and they radiocarbon dated it to be about dated to about 2200 BC. That's over 4,000 years old. Wow. And at the time, it's claimed to have been one of the oldest known specimens of a canoe. Well, as you know, I've found from my research an even older canoe that's been dated 8,000 years old, and that one is in West Africa. Maybe these archaeologists didn't know about that one, or those researchers that wrote the article didn't know about it. Anyway, this at the time that this article was written about this boat, it was actually on display in the museum in Ireland. And sometimes we can see these pieces in museums, don't you? And, you know, it's out of context and they don't really tell you the full history about it. They might just say, oh, yes, this was dug out of a bog and it was, you know, it's dated to be over 4,000 years old. But, you know, they don't tell you that there was actually a similar one that was dug up in Africa, and the likelihood is, and the one that was dug up in Africa was much older, and the likelihood is that it was African sailors who sailed from Africa, you know, on this canoe here to Ireland, and that there is, you know, further evidence that we have that shows that Ireland and Britain was actually populated by Africans during ancient times. Oh no, they don't tell you that, do they, family? Right, moving along, we can see more evidence of the, you know, we can see geographically how the world is laid out, and therefore, you know, how much later in our history we can see that the dynamics would have changed and the complexion of, you know, our Asians would have changed, because you can see, you know, although we crossed the Atlantic Ocean and we populated Britain, you can see that, you know, we could have gone over the North Sea very easily on those boats and populated all those regions as well. Today, you know, all those regions, the complexion of those regions is very, very different. And so in ancient times, we know from the archaeological findings that as Africans, we populated the whole of Europe as far as Russia. Just, you know, Russia has uncovered their archives, so we can see evidence from those paintings and the images, the iconographies, that we were the original people in those regions as well. Yeah, and over the whole of Europe. But during the Anglo-Saxon era, the Caucasians, you know, came into those regions and eventually overrun us as Africans. But that is a huge story. This happened over a couple of hundred years, over about, no, not a couple of hundred, yeah, it happened over, actually, no, over about 1,500 years, this fall of us as Africans, and that is a story that needs to be told, that we need to learn from. But yeah, it was during the Anglo-Saxon era that the Caucasians started to enter Britain and enter the African-British history. And, you know, even though they have tried to claim to have been the Anglo-Saxons that came in, the Saxons, the Jutes, and those that came in from Norway, Denmark, and the likes, we do know from the history that there were a lot of Africans among the Anglo-Saxons as well. So it's from this point that when of their arrival, that they predominantly start writing themselves into history and write us out of history, and have tried to erase all of the history that existed before around the 7th century AD, because they just didn't exist in these regions before then. So that's really interesting. And, you know, we can cross-reference that with other archaeological proof that highlights and testifies to that being the case. Further evidence of the greatness of the Africans who sailed the world and populated the globe long before there was a single European to speak of. There's the story of Abu Bakr II and his voyage. Abu Bakr, he is reported to be the brother of Mansa Musa. And it was an Arab historian, Al-Umari, who recorded Mansa Musa's account of his predecessor's voyage in search of lands across the Atlantic. And, you know, we have the account as a result of Al-Umari of Mansa Musa, who we believe was Mansa Musa's brother, who set sail and voyaged pre-Columbian transoceanic contact, and that this voyage is thought to have taken place in or before 1312. And this story is captured in my book as well, because it's the story of the Malian king who reportedly decided that he wanted to journey across the Atlantic Ocean himself. And he left Mansa Musa in charge and went off on this voyage. And it's recorded that during the voyage, well, that they went off on this voyage and never came back. And Mansa Musa was said to have informed this researcher of these events of his predecessor. And did he reach lands across the sea? What evidence is there that he did? So here is a quote anyway that's attributed to Mansa Musa regarding his predecessor's voyage. And this is as recorded by Al-Umari. He said, "The ruler who preceded me did not believe it was impossible to discover the extremity of the Atlantic Ocean and wanted to reach that end. He caused 200 ships to be equipped, filled with men, and many others filled with gold, water, and provisions sufficient to last for years. He ordered the chief admiral to not return until they had reached the extremity of the ocean, or if they had exhausted the provisions and the water. They set out. Their absence was long. Only one ship returned. Upon our questioning the captain about their adventures, he said, 'O Prince, we sailed for a long time until we met a mid-ocean, something like a river with a violent current. My ship was the last one. Others were ahead of me. As soon as any of them reached this place, they sank in the waves and never came up again. I sailed backward to escape this current.' But the Sultan disbelieved him. He ordered 2,000 ships this time to be equipped for him and his men, and 1,000 more for water and provisions. Wow. He conferred on me the regency during his absence and departed with his men on the ocean. That was the last we saw of him and all those who were with him. And so I became king in my own right. Well, you know, some believe that it was him that actually reached the Americas centuries before Columbus. But this is just one family of a number of intriguing stories about pre-Columbian transoceanic voyages and contacts with other parts of the world. And so we know that West Africans, North Africans have been exploring the world well before Columbus reached the Americas as well, and we know how they would have got there. And this is another really interesting symbol here, family. If you look at the image that I'm sure you're all familiar with on the left, it is the image of Mansa Musa, who, you know, was sitting in regency in the absence of the rightful heir and king, because the rightful heir and king decided he wanted to go on the voyage. And there we have Mansa Musa, you know, who we know had so much gold, went on a voyage and distributed so much gold, collapsed the Egyptian economy. And of course, you know, this is, anyway, we'll leave that story aside. But what I wanted to point out here in these two images is the crown that the king, Mansa Musa, was actually wearing on his head, the orb that he's holding in his hand, that golden orb, and the scepter. These are classic symbols of royalty, rulership, and wealth. And this is in Africa. But here we have the image on the right. You can see it's a crown. You can see the sword there in the background, the scepter as well, and the wand. And these were actually found in Edinburgh Castle in a massive chest that was broken open in 1818 by Sir Walter Scott, who had sought the permission of the Prince Regent to search for the crown jewels in Edinburgh Castle. Both images depicting royal power and symbolism from Africa to Scotland. So as an investigative researcher, you have to question, you have to answer questions, you know, and then you have to dig deeper into why there's such striking similarities that exist between these two medieval African kingships across two supposedly different civilizations. Who was wearing that crown in Scotland during the medieval era? Look at the similarities from Africa to Scotland. There's Mansa Musa holding his gold nugget or orb, symbolizing, you know, his immense wealth during his reign. And there you have the Scottish regalia, crafted from gold, velvet, and jewels and pearls, indicating royal splendor and wealth. Parallels that underscore how gold functioned as a universal marker of power and legitimacy across civilizations. Royal iconography. Right, so different continents, but very interesting stories. In part 2 of my book, Hidden in the Shadows, I'm going to be going into some of the African kings who ruled Britain during ancient times. Yes, Britain was certainly an African kingdom. In fact, there were many kingdoms in Britain. There were many. England was actually divided up into counties, and each of those counties had their own kings. And those kings ruled those kingdoms. It was the same in Scotland and Ireland as well. And even Wales was governed by Africans. And it's such a fascinating story. A lot of people focus on our more recent history and rulership in Britain, but we had been there from ancient times. So part 1 of my book, Hidden in the Shadows, lays the foundation of how we traveled to Africa, who some of these early Africans were, and evidence of their existence and civilization and their culture during that time is all in the first part. And the second part, we're going to go into, well, our history from the turn of the 1st century to more recent times as well. Okay, so why do we have to do it? We have to do it for ourselves because our history is hidden from us. The mainstream actually hide our history. And if we want to have knowledge of our history and our greatness in ancient times, then we are going to have to rewrite the history for ourselves. Yeah, because if we had that knowledge of our technology, if we had that knowledge today of how great we were on the seas and the ocean routes that we took, if we corrected those historical records, don't you think it would really instill a huge amount of confidence in our young people? We have a glorious ancient history. And in the presentation today, you know, you have uncovered along with me how we actually traveled from Africa to other parts of the globe. And there's so much more of our history that still needs to be explored. There's so much of our history that's been hidden from us by the mainstream, that it's up to us, it's really up to us to do that work. So there we have it, family. Ooh, as Asian Africans, we possessed advanced ancient knowledge of the ocean's currents. We were able to navigate the seas, you know, over long distances. We were long distance sea travelers, okay? The African presence in the various parts of the world where we went, there is evidence there that stretched across and far beyond the Americas, that we were in the Americas and all the other continents. There's evidence that shows that as Africans, we were not limited to Africa. We were not even limited to the Americas, but we traveled the Atlantic and beyond. And, you know, we were able to connect to all the different continents as well. There's archaeological discoveries, there's historical records, we've got the seafaring technology we had it during those times, and there's a shared symbolism as well. And so it's up to us to rewrite ourselves back into the history that we have been written out of, family. We've got to do that work, okay? We are the ones who brought civilization to the entire globe, and our ancestors need to get the credit for that as well. And you see, I hope, actually, what I've been able to prove in today's presentation, family, is that we were indeed the masters of the seas. If you believe that we were the masters of the seas, just let me know in the comments section. Or if you are yet to be convinced and think I've got more work to do to research and uncover the truth, then let me know as well. But what I hope has been made clear in this presentation is that our ancient ancestors did indeed reach the various other continents of this world, and they did so by the sea because they knew and understood the waves, and they made the boats, and they had the boats to do so. And that evidence of those boats have been dug up, have been examined, have been radiocarbon dated, and we ought to know without a shadow of a doubt that those boats were African boats, because the original boats have been found in West Africa. So we possess the ancient knowledge of the oceans. We had the knowledge of the currents and the winds and the seasons. We understood navigation as well over long distances. So not only is it possible, family, you know, but it's evidence that those journeys were not accidental, but were planned, were deliberate, were intentional. They knew when to jump the waves, you know, and they would wait for the waves, and then it would be all aboard. Yes, let's set sail. We've heard that in some of the films, but that would have been us, family, back in the days of old. So we have an incredible history. a fantastic history. And that's just a little insight into the historical records and the archaeological findings and some of the newspaper clippings and science journals that shows, you know, the pattern of our ancestors on the sea. So yeah, our ancestors were maritime people as well. We were navigating rivers, navigating seas, coastlines. We were pulling up, establishing civilizations, you know, in Europe, America, Asia, and beyond, okay? And our ancestors need to get the credit they deserve for their greatness. And that's, as I keep saying, it's up to us to do that. No one's going to do it for us. So I certainly hope that you enjoyed today's episode. In the next episode, we're going to continue to uncover more of our history that has been hidden from us, but it's still there in plain sight, still there for us to uncover. Okay, and so we're going to be on continuing on that journey. Remember, I'm the author of 6 books. You can get copies of my books from Amazon. All of them except the tribute to Marcus Mosiah Garvey is available on Amazon. The tribute to Marcus Mosiah Garvey is available for free on my Gumroad account. So just go to Gumroad and search for Sista Shanice. Then you can download a copy of that tribute book free of charge. Share it, share it, share it. You know, that's why I've written it. If you want to give me a donation for it, you can do so as well. If not, it's all good. I want to get Marcus Garvey's vision and message out there to as many people as possible. That's why I've made it free, okay? You can also download for free the academic papers that I've written. I've got 2 papers at Academia EDU. The first one, The Omission of an Asian African Irish Population from Contemporary Western Education. And my other paper is entitled Recovering the African Roots of Gaelic Royalty, the Egyptian Queen's Photos Legacy in the Histories of Ireland and Scotland. So you can download those for free. And if you're not following me on my other social media platforms, please do. I post quite a bit. I've got quite a bit on TikTok. So yeah, visit me on TikTok and please do subscribe. I've got well over 500 videos here on YouTube. So check them out. I don't post much on Twitter, to be honest, and I do occasionally on Facebook. But yeah, you can still reach me at those sites. And I would really appreciate love if you're not already a subscriber, if you subscribe to this channel, like and share. Thank you so, so much. You've been listening to me, Sista Shanice. I hope I've managed to imprint on your mind the greatness of our ancestors in terms of their seafaring skills. And I hope, you know, that I've left and in your spirit a great stirring for you to maybe find out more about our ancestors. Now, got about 10 minutes or so left. If you'd like to join me here live on the platform, you can do so. Let me stop sharing and get a copy of the link. Where do I find it? Here in the invites? Yes, copy invite link. There we go. I'm going to copy this invite link and post it in the chat. And if you would like to join me for a short while, I would really appreciate love your company and you doing so. So let me just post the link here. Hopefully it will work. There we go. Hopefully that's the whole link. Sometimes it's more than is needed. So there we go. I've just posted the link. Hopefully it's gone through. I'll do it twice just in case. So when you come live, if you don't want to, you don't have to turn on your video. You can just, you know, turn on your audio and we can hear from you. So let me go over to the chat in the meantime, and no, hang on. Let me see if I can find the numbers actually for the Zoom. So if you want to join me via the meeting ID and passcode, let me put that in the chat as well. So you've got that there as an option. There you go. Just posted the meeting ID and passcode should you want to join me. It'd be great to have you join me. So I'm going over to the chat in the meantime and to read some of the comments, questions, thoughts, opinions. Okay, rise up to those of you who have been following. Ah, yes, Sister Betty, it's that superiority complex. Yes, it is. Why they think, well, you know, we have to be able to do it before we can concede that they probably actually did. Yeah. Oh, Sheriff Ellis, rise up, Sister Sheriff Ellis in the house, who says, look at the length of that bow. For real, sis. We've got Thomas in the house. He says, does it mean that Africans discovered the Caribbean islands before Columbus? What do you now think, Brother Thomas? Yes, Kwame Ossis. Yes, Septimus Severus as well. One of the African Roman emperors, yeah, who was on the side of the Romans and was fighting against the Asian Africans who were in Britain. That's why they got the African Septimus Severus to come to Britain to fight, because they wanted him to fight his own people. How many times in history? Everywhere in history. That's the only time we get beat. You know that, family? That is the only time they are able to beat us, when they use us against each other. When are we going to stop allowing ourselves to be used to bring each other down? Kwame Ossi says Australia, the first Australians, Aboriginal Australians, descended from one of the earliest out of Africa migrations. Yes, indeed. They retain their dark, skintingly curled hair, broad noses, genetic markers, closest to Asian Africans. They are one of the oldest continuous human populations on Earth. They are very old indeed, and they've got very distinctive features. And that's because it's said that those Africans, remember, Africans had populated the entire globe, but something happened to change the identity of the indigenous Africans. And what it said that happened is that in Asia, crawling out of the Caucasus Mountains, were the Denisovans, these archaic beings that mated with the Africans, that gave rise to the features of the Australians that we see today, and the Chinese-looking features. And in Europe, in the European side, the archaic creatures that came out of the Caucasus Mountains were the Neanderthals, who mated with the Africans and gave rise to the white-skinned, pale-faced Caucasians that we see today. So, you know, there was all of that interbreeding that happened, you know, over hundreds, probably a couple of thousand years, you know, before these people actually develop the form that they're in today, put it that way, as a kind of man. Rise up. We've got Brother Kwame in the house who's joined me live. Greetings, beloved. Take yourself off mute.
Yeah, greetings, my sister. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. And yourself? Thank you so much for joining me.
I'm blacktastic as usual.
I love that. I'm blacktastic too. Yes, beloved.
Yeah, so basically, I agree with 1,000% with what you're saying is true, because you know the so-called white man, Caucasian, they have a narrative that they were the first, they were the center of everything. So they are the explorers, the seafarers, the navigators, that. So when you go and that's the lie that they told for 400 years, and it's been put in their films, in their textbooks, in their history lessons, in the school curriculum. So everyone believes that white people are in fact original to Australia, Canada, America, etc. But they're so-called seafarers, the likes of Mungo Park, Livingston, Columbus, etc., Captain Cook, etc. They all knew, all saw, when they went to these far-flung places, they saw black people. So when Columbus went to America, he saw black people. When Cook went to Australia, he saw black people. When Mungo Park went to Asia, he saw black people. When Sister Livingston went to Africa, they saw black people.
Yes.
Right? And we can prove this archaeologically and even by blood type. Because the O blood group is the original blood group of African people before contact with Europeans.
Yes.
So all this we talk about, Sister, right, have O blood type. Even in this country, Cheddarman in the UK, he has the O blood type. Yeah, that proves that he was African, and that proves that we are indigenous African people to UK. So this lie that the white man spins that we came here with Windrush, that's the biggest lie ever. And the white man's the father of the lie because he wants you to believe that your history began with Windrush in this country. The same way that in America, he wants you to believe that history began with slavery. So that's the trick, that's the narrative. And they stick to that narrative rigidly because it suits the white supremacist agenda. So we have to unlearn everything that we think we know about history and re-educate ourselves, re-advocate ourselves because all that we know or all that we think we know is a grand lie. Because the white man is no native nowhere on the planet. He's not a native nowhere. Even in England, in Russia, in Germany, we can prove it in France, right? Obviously in Australia, New Zealand, India, China. Yeah. It's nowhere. And even the so-called Indian that you see in the UK is not Indian, he's half caste. The Pakistan you see is the Indo-European. Their ancestors came from Eastern Europe. That's why we look at Pakistan carefully, with particularly the light-skinned ones. They look at Roma Gypsy people. Yeah, because their ancestors partly came from them. Right. Yeah. And the Chinese that you see in England, right, and Africa, they're not the indigenous Chinese. The indigenous Chinese are black African people. This is long before Confucius. Confucius is 500 BCE. That's a baby. We were in China at least 500,000 years ago. 500,000 years ago, archaeologists dug out bones of black people that look at United States in China that go for more than 500,000 years. So what's all nonsense about Confucius and all that rubbish? That's just yesterday. In Japan, we were in Japan long before the Japanese, so-called white Japanese. Yeah. So that tells us we circumnavigated this planet long before any other people. And in fact, all the people that you see are actually genetic mutations of us. This is why when you see some of these Chinese, they actually look black. The high cheekbones, their lips and noses, right? They look black. But because
they've got some of our DNA, they have, but there was a mixing.
And even like I said, they mutated of us. Yeah. So when you mutate over thousands of years, that happens. The African features begin to subside, but in various cases, it's still there. Like I said, so when you see some of the Chinese, right, they look more black. Like I said, some of their features look, their thick lips, their broad cheekbones and their broad noses. That's why some of them, right, want to do surgery, right, and make them more European. Yeah. Because it reminds them, right, of us. And we know, and in Australia, right?
The history, they're reminded of the history they're trying to bury, But
and even like I said last time, Afghanistan, the Taliban blew the noses of ancient African monuments because the Taliban know the Africans were there long before any so-called Arab or Eurasian, right? And even Australia, right? Like you mentioned Australia, right? You go to the outback. Because I've been to the outback. That's Northern Territories. That's where you'll find the indigenous black people. They escaped to the so-called Northern Territories, the Rockies, the outback, as the white man calls it, right? That's where they are. They're blacker than you and I, right? And they have the DNA of Africans. Those ones who are mixed, right, like the so-called Maoris and those light-skinned Aborigines, right? They were raped by the Caucasian to try and contaminate or to destroy the African bloodline. But the indigenous Africans are still there in the outback. And so, like I said, we have a deep history, right? That goes back from time itself. No one knows the birthday of the black woman. I'm not gonna say it's the black woman, is the indigenous human being, not the black man, not this Christian rubbish. Oh, Adam and Eve. Eve came from Adam, and in Islam, Adam came from, or Eve came from black dust. No, we came from a woman. We all come from a woman, a black woman.
Right.
Name me any man that comes from a man, any woman that comes from a man. You can't tell me that, because it's biologically just impossible for a man to come from a woman. Well, that's why even Tim gives it away, woman and then man. So woman came first and then man came second. So we all come from the mitochondrial DNA of the black woman. That's who we come from.
Absolutely.
And the black woman is the oldest human being on the planet. I'm a baby compared to Sister Shanice. I'm a baby. You are the original human being, and you go from, your DNA goes from back from time. We don't know when it starts from, but it goes back trillions and trillions of years. So we have to undo all the rubbish that we've been taught about ourselves and about who the white man is. The white man is a baby. He came lately, man. So I wrap there.
Rise up, Brother Kwame. Thank you so, so much for joining me. You just shared us so much knowledge and information there with us, the family. You've taken us to the top of the hour as well. I want to thank everybody who has been joining us in the chat today. Thank you so, so much. Stephen saying I should grow sister lots. Let me see you with some sister lots first. Oh, my hair's too fine to grow anything like that. So anyway, oh, Stephen. Big up everybody who's been supporting the show. For those of you who've been watching, for those of you who are going to share, thank you so, so much in advance. Brother Errol, big up yourself for being in the house today as well. Sister Karen, Sister Betty, Brother Kwame, thank you so, so much. Sheriff S, great to have had you in the house as well today. Brother Thomas, to each and every one of you, Sister Karen, to each and every one of you, thank you so, so much for being here. And tune in. Wow. Next Wednesday, same time, we've got another really exciting show lined up for you about Africa's and about our Asians global travels around the world. And what's the next episode? I think we're going to be looking at the contribution that they made to, Africa's global spiritual legacy. Powerful. Rise up, family. Sister Shanice out of here for now. Thanks again so, so much for supporting the platform.